Hello and welcome to The Big Picture. It is being termed as Dalit uprising, something which is not heard often in this country. The brutal assault of 4 Dalit leather tanners in Una in Gujarat 10 days back, which came to light a few days later, and the subsequent turn of events has surprised all. The fury behind the backlash by Dalits is spreading across Gujarat. Already 2 people are said to have died related to the protests. Over a dozen Dalits have attempted suicide. The perpetrators of the brutal assault on the Dalit youngsters, calling themselves cow protectors or Gaurakshaks, have added an interesting dimension. Even as Dalits cutting across party lines in Gujarat are up in arms, unusual scenes of mass mobilization was witnessed in Mumbai a couple of days back, where an Ambedkar Bhavan has been demolished by authorities. What does all this mean? Is this Dalit uprising a temporary outburst, or is it something more? How much of it is spontaneous and how much politically motivated? What does this mean for the society at large and to the Dalits in particular? We will discuss all this today with Professor Sukhdev Thorat, Chairman of the ICSSR, who will be on the phone line with us from Bangalore, Rajiv Bhargava, Professor at the Center for the Study of Developing Societies, CSDS, Professor Nandini Sundar, sociologist at the Delhi School of Economics, and D. Umapati, senior journalist. Welcome to all of you. Mr. Thorat, Professor Thorat, Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, Professor Thorat, how do you see this uprising, or what is being called as an uprising? We have heard of many such atrocities being committed on the Dalits in the past in various parts of the country. How is it that this has acquired this kind of a dimension?
Well, I think in the past there has been uprising in Haryana as well as in Maharashtra after the Khairlandi incidents. Thousands and thousands of people have participated in protests. But certainly in Gujarat, this is a new phenomena. I agree with you. I think the reason, in my view, are the following: that the untouchability, discrimination, and atrocities and violence is immensely high in Gujarat, which is not made visible. But there are studies which brings out that the violence in Gujarat, in the countryside, is perpetual. The study done by Navsarjan in Gujarat rural area identified more than 99 forms of discrimination and atrocities, and a very severe nature of those atrocities. Now, there is a constant impression and impact of these atrocities in the mind of the people, and therefore there is an anger inside. Now, the issue is how come the middle class and others have really came on the street. The reason is that Gujarat is, in my view, is relatively economically, the Dalits are economically better off.
Right.
It's not that there is no poverty, but poverty is low, and there is a middle class which is economically better, and education level is substantially high. So there is a potential for the middle class and lower middle class uprising to become angry and express the anguish. And I think, in my view, that the level of toleration has come to so much of height that the lower middle class and middle class and even people from the rural area, they I think the water has flown above the head, and therefore this is the expression of that anger and that anguish.
Okay. Rajiv, is that how you look at this uprising?
Well, absolutely.
Do you think that there's a political angle to all these things?
No, I mean, there is a political angle to everything. But the point is, this is not just politically manufactured. And it's not that it's purely spontaneous, but that there is a,
It is not purely spontaneous.
Well, in the sense that I wouldn't de-link it from, Dalit organizations, which are politically organized, right? So
we haven't heard much of political, Dalit organizations organizing themselves in Gujarat. We have not heard much of that in Gujarat in the past.
Well, we haven't heard in the past, but I mean, there are groups which have been working there, and Professor Thorat mentioned that levels of education are really high and so on. But this kind of persistent and systematic humiliation, which is going on for centuries and decades, is bound to lead to some expression of this kind. I mean, and in this particular case, you must remember, when a person is physically beaten, it's not just physical violence, it's a mental scar that is left behind. And not to respond in any kind of way in which people among the Dalit community are responding now would be to admit they don't even have self-respect. So it's a very basic expression of self-respect, which is expressed and embodied in these uprisings. It's extremely important.
Okay, Nandini, it's very curious that actually this whole incident came to light because the perpetrators put it up on the YouTube, as if it was something which they were very proud of.
Well, it's a bit like the Abu Ghraib photos going viral, and clearly the people who took them thought, although these were private photos, they thought they were something that could be displayed both for their own personal prowess and as a symptom of mastery over somebody else. And they didn't expect it to become this symbol of expression, of exploitation. And that's just what's happened here, that the people who put it out thought that it would make Dalits feel scared about what could happen to them. And instead, it made people realize what complete inhuman monsters these Gorakshak people are.
So, so what does it mean?
So it means that the media, that increasingly now both the perpetration of violence and the reactions to violence are mediated by images. It means that it gives people the opportunity to, images like this going viral, give people the opportunity to know about something like this, which they may not have known earlier, to come together through various platforms, even if they started off as something that was meant to be an instrument of domination.
So, Umapati, is this some kind of a reaction to the domination, and why is it happening now? It has been years since they have been suffering. I have some very interesting figures as far as Gujarat is concerned. We'll come to the other parts of the country. Gujarat has, has been having these kind of atrocities on Dalits for years now. But suddenly, why this expression?
Well, it's a suppressed anguish and insult heaped on them for centuries, and in Gujarat, it's all the time, it was seen as an undercurrent phenomenon which has taken an out in the form of outburst now. And in my view, in my perception, this can't be termed as, I have a problem with the term uprising, because I have a problem with this term. It's rather exaggerated, media by and large resorts to hyperbole, and the reaction of Dalits is far behind from uprising.
So you don't think it can be called an uprising?
It's perhaps too early to say so.
That's interesting. Nandini, would you agree with that?
I think it should in fact be much more of an issue than it is. I mean, I'm saddened by the fact that it's not being raised much more in Parliament. In fact, today there is a discussion going on in the Rajya Sabha on this issue. Yeah, but something like this, in June they had lynched they beat up somebody else in Rajasthan. There's an FIR being filed against a Clark's family for supposed cow slaughter. So this whole business of Gau Raksha committees becoming vigilante groups, going around beating up whoever they want, is just getting too much. I mean, the bans on beef, the beatings, people are feeling this kind of sense of suffocation that occupations that they had been doing, are not even illegal, are suddenly being sort of so fraught with danger, and it's something that really should become much, much more of an issue than it is.
Professor Thorat?
No, I want to say one thing.
Professor Thorat, I have a question. You can say what? No, I'll just listen to my question first.
Yeah.
My question is, are you uncomfortable with the use of the word uprising? Is it something which the media is trying to project in a premature manner?
I don't know, but I think it is certainly not a simple protest. It is a protest with a lot of intensity. It is a widespread. They have formed a committee and a forum. So I will tend to agree that this is in the form of uprising, in the sense that people are now standing up and they want to do something on a permanent basis. So it is a new phenomena for Gujarat. Now the point that I want to make is that you have mentioned and Nandini has mentioned, I think why the atrocity has been there in Gujarat, and there is accumulated anger and anguish, yes, certainly there, but my feeling is that the political and the religious discourse of last 2 years, where instead of supporting equity, fraternity and brotherhood, the political discourse has gone back in support of, very indirectly in support of maintaining the caste system, in support of retributive principles, and lack of brotherhood, lack of fraternity, but lending the support to something which is against the constitution. And the political discourse of equality and brotherhood is taking a back seat, and I think it has its own impact on Dalits. Many are worried and scared about this discourse. I think this is one of the reasons also why there is a sudden uprising in Gujarat. And let me tell you one thing. This is not the feeling in Gujarat alone. I will not be surprised that this will happen at other places.
I want to come to that.
There is a general discontentment among the Dalits on several issues.
No, I will.
It is in Haryana.
I'll come to that, sir. Sir, I'll come to that.
Many places.
I'll come to that. That's an important issue which you raised. I'll come to that. Before that, we are joined in now by Bezwada Wilson, who is the national convener of Safai Karmachari Sangh. Welcome, Wilson. Wilson, how do you see this entire thing, uprising or whatever you want to call it?
It is, I feel that it is an assertion of the Dalits. It is increasing day by day across the country. And it is a result is many times people are thinking that the Dalits are just keeping quiet when the atrocity is happening. It is not. Everywhere we are opening our eyes, but dusra ka dominant caste, they think that this is a just small minuscule something is happening. But now they have decided, we have decided, let us face whatever is there. So this is in a small way it is coming out. Actually the whole India, if the Dalits, and take the example of the Gujarat, the Dalit population in Gujarat is very less when compared to the other states. So there it is happening. Why? So my reading here is, we are thinking the new government only 2 years here. But whereas in the Gujarat, past 15 years, they have experienced everything. So there is no any kind of a myth that the government is going to do anything. And the law and order is actually, I have seen that when they are beating somebody, how can somebody can come and beat even if they eat or do something? And what is the law and order? Land of the law, where it has gone? And if they have taken to their hand, this is happening past almost like a 1990s in this country. You can do anything, you are not accountable. Nobody is going to punish.
Okay.
That lesson has given a kind of a picture to the whole country. You can do anything.
Okay. That's
I was just going to
Rajiv,
say,
yes.
I mean, there's a culture of
political discourse. What Professor Turad was talking about, the political discourse in the last 2 years. You think that there is a direct connection to this?
I think, I believe that there is a direct connection. I mean, there are a number of things that have happened. I think there is, when we talk about Hindutva, a large part of it is simply upper caste Hindu assertion, right? So there is bound to be in this whole political social space, there's bound to be a feeling of aggression coming from the upper caste. There's bound to be a great deal of anxiety. There'll be people will feel threatened, and I'm very happy that instead of all of this remaining confined to local spaces, being held sort of in private, this is all coming out in the open. This is obviously, as Wilson said, I mean, this is not an atrocity that has happened for the first time. But it's now out in the public domain with a force that we may find it difficult to contain. And the other thing is that it's absolutely right when he says that people now feel that they have to do something about it on their own because the law and order machinery is not going to help them. If an action was taken against it immediately, this would not have happened.
This would not have happened. In fact,
but there is a culture of impunity, which is witnessed time and again when it comes to both Muslims and Dalits. So I think unless people come out on the streets in vast numbers, publicly and openly, and then begin to get support from some political classes, from some NGOs, and from the alert citizens, from intellectuals. I think unless this happens, we will not be able to change the mindset.
Umabati, you think that this is something which is not going to be confined to Gujarat? You think that one thing which has been noticed in Gujarat in the last few days that this is happening is that people cutting across party lines have joined. It is not just one political party or one political force which is behind this. Do you see this kind of a apolitical movement spreading to other places?
Sorry, I may still sound cynical about the whole thing. Uprising still has a negative connotation, and it is not even spread. It is not even a nationwide phenomenon.
No, it is not.
It's a welcome sign that it has started from Gujarat, the land where 2002 riots happened, and a significant number of Dalits also participated in those riots along with tribals. This is very significant development, though it is not widespread. It's happening in Karnataka. Minorities are being attacked in Karnataka, and Dalits are being attacked in Haryana. It's Maharashtra, Rajasthan. It's not happening in a vacuum kind of situation. But no doubt it's a welcome situation. It is far from
you're still skeptical that this is something which is going to grow. Is that your problem?
I would like to watch and wait and watch.
That's Nandini?
I would like it to grow because I think let's stop doing the dirty work of upper caste. And in fact, the reason that
sorry to intervene. Do you see this, getting to be some kind of a caste wars happening?
I wouldn't say caste wars because ultimately the state has force and the state is an upper caste state. And it's always, the police machinery is always used against Dalits, Adivasis, minorities. So, even if it's a caste war, I think it might soon be quelled. But what is clearly happening is that, the same upper caste who will not skin their own dead cows, who will not take away their own carcasses or perform postmortems when people die or animals die, and they get the Dalits to do this. When the Dalits do this, they also punish them for carrying out their dirty work. So you can't have it both ways, that you want them to do your dirty work and then you attack them for doing that work.
This is quite unusual what has happened now. That, this Gaurakshaks going and attacking Dalits, they have been attacking Muslims in the past, but why Dalits now?
But it's a different form, right? There've been huge numbers of rapes of Dalit women over the years. We've seen that they are a very vulnerable community. There were the Jhajjar killings. There are, Khairlanji. So attacks on Dalits are not a new phenomena. And the kind of sense that you can get away with attacking Dalits because you have state power behind you, you have political power behind you, and this is a new form in which Dalits are being attacked. It's not a completely new thing to be attacking Dalits.
No, but Rajiv, in this whole the cow discourse, if you may, in this cow discourse, the upper caste Hindus versus the Dalits, is it an unusual thing?
No,
it's not.
Well, listen, as Nandini has already answered that question in some ways. The fact is that all the waste material, which is supposed to be filthy, is the waste material of the entire community, which includes a large number of the upper castes. But the socially necessary work, which is required to remove the filth, remove the waste, that is done only by a very tiny section. It is imposed on them. Now, we can only have two solutions to it. One is that all of this work is performed by machines, right? The other way is that everything is equally shared by everybody. In any egalitarian society, it must be shared equally. And so I'm totally sympathetic to the way in which this protest is taking shape today, when Dalits are coming up and saying, here are the carcasses,
exactly.
Do worship the cows.
That is something, Wilson, that form of protest, which it is acquired now, that these boys and these young boys we have been watching coming in trucks and and taking these carcasses and putting it in front of the various buildings and things like that. One. Second thing I want you to address: why are so many Dalit boys trying to attempt committing suicide?
That is actually not the suicide. When there is a completely vacuum with the state and state machinery, like an example, that Haryana, the case, the rape which happened, 2013 it happened, and those people asked her to come for the compromise. She said, I cannot no human being can compromise if somebody raped. So she did the same. For that reason again they raped. So which means the state, when it is totally failed, and the people also what they are saying, in one way you are worshipping the cow. When the cow dies, you will never worship. As long as it lives, you want to worship. When it dies, you are throwing on us. So what we are doing now is, we are throwing back to you. If you want to worship, you worship the way you want. This is not a protest. It is a democratic right to claim that we are also equal as you are. You are worshipping in that way. We are worshipping in this way. This is not at all a fight. One should not think this is a civil war. No, it is a democratic right, equal right, yes, which they are exercising, stating very openly, you are asking us to clean this. We clean. When you eat food, what we will do across the country? We take the food and you make a puja, you worship and you eat. When it come out, who will clean that? Is in this country anybody can answer for this? Yeah. So when the people doing that, you branded them as untouchables. So how one can just resist all these things? No human being, no human society can resist this kind of a dichotomy at all at any cost. This is in a democratic way. They are coming and saying, okay, we are telling this. Nobody is listening. So right, they are throwing the dead bodies. Exactly. Now you do.
Okay. I think we need to address why so many Dalits are committing suicide. There is they're not attacking others. They're committing suicide. Why is that?
Why is that? Let me get Professor Thorat in on this. Professor Thorat, why is it that, so many Dalit boys are attempting suicide, following what has happened there in Gujarat? We've already heard about a dozen of them have tried to attempt committing suicide.
Yeah, well, I think there would be an explanation in Gujarat. It will come out, but my explanation is twofold. One, as I told you, that the Gujarat rural society has been extremely suppressive and oppressive. A perpetual forms of atrocities, humiliation, and it is accumulated over a period of time. And on the other hand, the other explanation is that there is nobody to protect them. Except Martin McWath, Navsurjan, I do not see any civil society organization. But what is important is that there is no political party. The leadership is with the forces. We support this kind of an ideology. And there are no other civil society organization of the middle class. So the youth and the people, those who face atrocity perpetually over a period of time, and then they discover that there is nobody to support, and then you have police and the court which are not on their side, you develop an immense feeling of frustration. So I think there are two aspects to this suicide. One aspect is the immense frustration for nothing going to come, and secondly, I think there is an element of protest. So I think this is a situation of complete helplessness in Gujarat, where for over a period of time, the atrocities are happening. There is nobody to support them. Administration and political parties and the government is not taking a positive view. Let me give you an example and you will understand what is the role of the state there. Martin McWath, Navsurjan brought out a study on untouchability and discovered that there are 99 forms of discrimination and untouchability.
Yes.
Government gave an alternative study to Institutes of Management to counteract this study. That this methodology is not correct. That is why the more atrocities are being revealed.
Okay.
And that study was reviewed by some gentleman. He was given money by the state and he came with a negative thing that this study is not proper. That is the way the state is responding.
Okay.
So I think it is an immense feeling of helplessness, anguish and pain that the youth and the person who became victim of atrocities are feeling.
Okay.
This is an element of protest as well as element of complete helplessness.
Okay. Yes, Nandini.
I have actually a suggestion for the government as a solution to this problem of Dalit suicides. Just like they try to do with Rohit Vemula, they can deny that they are Dalits. They can say that they belong to some other caste. So then, there won't be any issue at all.
No, but another interesting thing, Umapati. The Rohit Vemula, when it happened, the kind of reactions which we witnessed, not just in Andhra, but other parts of the country also, that seemed to have subsided. Now, why do you think that subsided? Is this the second stage of that? Is what we are witnessing?
Unfortunately, it's true. It's not picking up as it was during Rohit Vemula's suicide. I think youths were passionately involved in Rohit Vemula's episode, whereas here he was a PhD scholar, and there was an element of sorry to use this word, romanticizing, but here these are poor Dalit boys who are skinning a cow. So that's it. I think that as simple as that.
Nandini and both of you, you think there is a problem of identification here, or
identification by whom?
Because the kind of responses we got when in the Rohit Vemula episode and what we are getting now, do you see a difference there?
Not really. I think the same group of people, or the same people who felt upset about what happened to Rohit and the whole university's response to it, are also equally upset about this. It's just that it needs much more of an organized movement. It needs to be taken forward. There you have a group of students who were taking it, and the media kind of focused. But I think it's not as if people don't care about this issue.
Yeah. Politicization of this, it's bound to happen. It's happening. It's going to happen. You think that there'll be a politicization of this is going to be a good thing in the larger context, or you think that it can take away the seriousness?
No, I think a narrow politicization would be destructive. This perverse comparativism that goes on. That Congress has done this, and I did that over there, and that kind of thing. If it's reduced to this, it'll be very destructive. We'll be getting away from the main issue,
exactly
the core issue, and that has to be politicized in the right way. So I'm not sort of wary of politicization, in the sense that I'm not wary of this issue becoming public, and political groups and people and citizens who take their politics seriously. They all come behind it,
and it should not become a party.
No, it should. Of course not. How can it become a party? It's too serious an issue.
But at the same time, I think
it is a serious matter when the country is facing.
Yes.
Because it is not just...
No, but are you worried? Are you worried that political parties will take political advantage, and the actual issue will get sidelined?
See, politicians, definitely they will take advantage of this. We have no problem. You politicize, you do whatever. But the issue must align, and issue whatever is there, that should projected in the way exactly the fact. Which means what? We need a solution out of this. Okay. We are not for the problems here.
Okay. Yes, Nandini, you were saying something.
I think that actually it's good if political parties also take this up, rather than the several trivial things they take up all the time, like whether Rahul Gandhi was sleeping or not, or, that kind of thing is rubbish. This is something political parties should address.
But not
they should address, but they should not trivialize it.
Yeah.
Not
by reducing it to this kind of a game between one party and another.
Okay. I think on that note we'll end, but this is a serious issue. Hopefully, as all my panelists point out, that this will be taken up seriously, not getting politicized, one party trying to score a brownie point over the other. But we'll wait and watch how this will develop. Thanks to all my guests. Please keep watching. We'll come back with Andhra Issue, the big picture, same time too.